The latest update to Limbus Company has turned yet another Canto 8 boss into a playable character. This time it's the local fraud's turn, so not many people were particularly excited for this release. However, Corp Ego Fell Bullet or Gubo Yi Sang has ended up as a very strong poise damage dealer, with team killing mechanics and a unique interaction with his Fell Bullet Ego skill. His damage numbers are quite high, and his overall performance has definitely subverted the expectations of many players. However, he's not perfect, with weaknesses in both his kit and the playstyle that he demands. So the question arises, how good is Gubo Yi Sang actually? In today's video, I aim to answer this question by first quickly going over his kit and then looking at his performance in combat, mainly in the Poise team. But before we start, allow me to remind you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get back to the newest identity. Gubo Yi Sang is an identity with fairly low HP, pretty high speed, and a +2 defense level. His sin affinity spread is Wrath, Lust and Pride, with a Pride defense. His first skill is See-Through Defenses, which has 1 coin and rolls up to 15. It gets a bunch of extra damage from Torn Memory, coin and base power from Poise and Poise Count, and gives Yi Sang 2 Poise Count and 1 Torn Memory on use. Its coin grants 1 more Poise Count on hit, and on crit it gives 1 Torn Memory and inflicts 1 bleed count. Gubo Sang's second skill is Punch Through, which has 2 coins, rolls up to 20, gets the same damage conditionals as skill 1, gets coin power from Poise and gives 2 Poise on use. Its coins give Yi Sang 4 Poise and 1 Torn Memory on hit, and inflict 2 bleed on crit, while also giving him 2 more Torn Memory. Fell Bullet's skill 3 is Target Readjustment Fire. It has 2 coins, rolls up to 24 and has 2 attack weight. It targets the enemy with the least HP, and at 7 Torn Memory it targets the ally with the lowest HP instead. At combat start, it gains 1 attack weight for every 3 Torn Memory on Yi Sang, up to 2. The skill gains coin and base power from Poise and Poise Count, while also giving Yi Sang 1 Poise for every Torn Memory on self on use. After attack, Yi Sang loses SP based on his Torn Memory, and if he has 7 stacks of the effect, he loses all of them. If Torn Memory was lost and an ally was killed by the skill, Yi Sang recovers 20 SP. The first coin of the skill only deals damage to the main target. If that target is an ally, its pierce resistance becomes fatal against this attack. The coin deals extra damage based on Torn Memory and extra crit damage based on Poise on Yi Sang. The second coin has some more effects. It only deals damage against the sub-targets of the skill, so basically everyone except the one targeted by the first coin. If the main target is an enemy, however, it hits that enemy again. And if the first coin fails to kill an ally, only one random sub-target takes the damage. The second coin deals extra damage based on Torn Memory, with the bonus doubling if the first coin killed an ally. Additionally, it deals extra damage on crit based on Poise and Torn Memory, as well as dealing extra damage based on the amount of HP percentage the first coin removed from its target. On hit, it inflicts 3 bleed, and if the first coin killed an ally, it inflicts 5 bleed and 2 bleed count instead. Yi Sang's defense is much simpler, as it's just a clashable counter that rolls up to 15, gives him 2 turn memory on use, and also gives him 2 poise and 2 poise count on hit. Moving on to his passives, the first one allows Yi Sang to retain his turn memory stacks between turns, and the second one, Fell Bullet, requires 6 Pride owned to activate. It grants Yi Sang the Fell Bullet effect for the next turn after killing an ally. It also allows Yi Sang to recover turn memory that gets consumed by the Fell Bullet ego skill. As for his support passive, Yi Sang gets Designate Target, which requires 4 Pride Resonance to use. It allows the ally with the slowest speed to get 1 damage up next turn after attacking an ally, up to 2 times per turn. If the affected ally kills another ally, they gain 1 damage up for the rest of the encounter instead. One unit can only get up to 2 permanent damage up from this effect. And with this, we're done with the kit of Corp Ego Fell Bullet Yi Sang. As you can see, most of his complicated effects are stored in his third skill, making it incredibly important to play around it to get maximum value. But before moving on to him in combat, let's also take a look at the unique effects this identity works with. The first effect is Torn Memory, which already existed in the game and was used by the Fell Bullet ego skills. The effect stacks up to 7 and does nothing on its own, so it's basically a charge reskin. Fell Bullet, on the other hand, doesn't get more than 1 stack, and increases Yi Sang's damage on critical hit based on Torn Memory. It also allows him to inflict bleed on hit, and gain poise and poise count on kill. The effect expires at turn end. With this, it's about time we stopped talking about the new identities kit and started looking at it in combat. First and foremost, this unit exists solely for the poise team, and there are a couple of reasons for that. As he is a Season 6 poise identity, he is not allowed to have adequate poise gain without outside help. I don't know why, but Project Moon refused to allow new poise IDs to ramp up on their own, forcing them to be reliant on outside help in the form of the many nebulizers this game has. Without that help, Gubo Yi Sang becomes much clunkier, but we'll get to that later. The other reason is that his bleed infliction is just not good enough to consider him in the bleed team. Almost all of his bleed is locked behind crits, and as I said, this Yi Sang struggles with getting good poise on his own. Additionally, his competition is literally Ring Yi Sang. And despite me making a funny little video on that ID last week, I still think he's very strong, and Gubo Yi Sang simply cannot scale that wall. In poise, however, he's pretty good. I would even go as far as to say that he's a strong poise damage dealer. The first thing that makes him a good unit for this team is his access to high modifiers on his first and second skill. 105% is a lot of extra damage, especially when slapped onto a skill that critically hits and rolls decently high. Gubo Yi Sang's first skill deals good damage for its rank despite having only 1 coin, while his second doesn't fall far behind that of Ring Yi Sang when given max ramp, which is a huge accomplishment considering we're comparing him to the skill 2 merchant here. But the thing that really sets him apart from other IDs is, of course, his skill 3. Target Readjustment Fire is practically 2 skills in one, and both are good. It can either act as a normal skill 3 or as a stronger copy of Fell Bullet Yi Sang. When used against an enemy, so at 0 to 6 turn memory, target readjustment fire behaves just like any other skill, dealing good damage and providing Yi Sang with extra poise from turn memory. But you're not here for this skill 3, are you? As soon as Yi Sang gets 7 turn memory, his skill starts targeting allies, and his damage conditionals, as well as effective attack weight, are greatly increased. The skill starts acting very similar to the Fell Bullet Ego, but it trades out the damage on the first coin for more damage with its second, making it more difficult to set up, but also more rewarding. However, Fell Bullet gets a lot more attack weight, so the two excel in different scenarios. I don't think I need to explain Fell Bullet to you, as that skill has been in the game for almost a year now. But all of its pros and cons apply to target readjustment fire. It's a high damage AoE skill that gets to crit for even more damage. But it requires an ally sacrifice to go through. The sacrifice part is a bit of an issue, as it requires you to build your team carefully and also set up a low HP ally in advance. Usually with Fell Bullet, you would perform an ancient sacrificial ritual by putting an underleveled ID, typically base Sinclair, in your starting roster, and then shooting him in the head on turn 1 for an instant damage burst. This does not work for Gubo Yi Sang's skill 3, as he requires prior ramp up, and keeping a low-level identity on the field for a long time is a terrible idea. Instead, what you can go for is making an ally deliberately take damage, using an ID that damages itself, or just running a Merceau that spams Screwloose Wallop to lower his max HP. All of these techniques supply Yi Sang with ammo in the form of low HP allies, which he can cut down to burst small enemy groups for insane damage. Speaking of cutting allies down, Yi Sang also gets a nice quality of life effect on his skill 3, which turns the target ally's pierce resistance to fatal, allowing it to kill allies that are normally resistant to pierce, which opens up more options. Once you're past the roadblock of actually setting up the turn memory, poise and the sacrifice to the old gods, you're rewarded with a huge amount of damage. If Screwloose Merceau was the target, you can also greatly benefit from the last damage buff of the second coin, as long as he was at a high HP percentage before getting killed. This skill performs disgustingly well in the Refraction Railway, which is a mode that Gubo Yi Sang absolutely dominates. The refracted buffs provide him with extra poise and more damage, while the mode itself gives him enough encounter length to get his setup and get great value out of using it. Also, I need to touch up on the fact that target readjustment fire gets great synergy with Fell Bullet, so comparing them side by side like I did a bit earlier isn't exactly correct. Once Yi Sang has enough poise count and a killable ally, he can use Fell Bullet. The skill then tops off his turn memory stack if used in a resonance chain, gives him more poise, kills an ally, deals a bunch of damage, and also gives Gubo Yi Sang the Fell Bullet effect. With the help of that effect, Yi Sang can then use target readjustment fire to kill another fresh ally, dealing even more damage. Even if you can't kill an ally with Fell Bullet, the turn memory gain and retention through the ego and Yi Sang's passive allows you to finish off the target with his skill 3, albeit without the Fell Bullet effect for extra damage. Using this combo the other way around is also possible, so the better of the two options depends on the encounter you're up against. So, these were all the good things about this identity, as well as some tips on how you should use it. Now let's look at the weaknesses that hold this unit back from becoming a top tier damage dealer. First of all, the poise gain. I've referenced this a bunch of times already, but let me explain what's so bad about it. The only ways for Yi Sang to gain poise count are his skill 1 and defense. So, you know, his weakest skills. Funnily enough, his skill 1 only gives poise count, while his skill 2 only gives poise potency, meaning that Yi Sang is pretty skill order dependent when trying to stack poise. Only having skills 2 and 3 when you're at low poise count forces you to use his counter, losing out on all the damage he could have done. But getting poise is not the only issue, as getting turn memory is another problem that stems from it. When at low poise, Yi Sang doesn't get many turn memory stacks, as a lot of them are hidden behind critting. Once again, the counter tries to save the day here, but it's the only skill in Gubo Yi Sang's kit that doesn't scale its damage with turn memory, meaning you're effectively doing nothing while building up your stacks if you keep pressing this button. Additionally, the skill order issue doesn't just show itself when stacking poise, as the timing at which you get Yi Sang's skill 3 can also make or break a fight. If you get it too early, you either need to throw it out like a normal skill and hope you don't get it too late on the second rotation, or you have to prematurely rip a fell bullet ego to get Yi Sang to 7 turn memory ASAP, while also setting up a killable target, which can be inefficient if the fight you're up against doesn't call for AoE just yet. If you get the third skill too late, well then you're just losing time. All the preparations should be made in advance anyways, meaning you're simply stuck waiting for the good skill to come out from the back of the skill order. Overall, Yi Sang is very reliant on his skill order, as getting a bad one means he gets no poise, has to give up his strong skills, and or just loses out on his main gimmick. All of that sucks, and it leads to a low damage output from Yi Sang. And sadly, it's entirely out of your control, which is why the unit can feel very clunky to use at times. Is there anything that can alleviate these issues? Yes, actually, it's Fell Bullet the Ego. It provides Yi Sang with extra poise and turn memory, while also setting him up for a strong skill 3 by either weakening an ally or killing them outright to provide Yi Sang with the Fell Bullet effect for a damage buff. It doesn't fully fix the skill order issue, but it tries its best, and can help you get a bit more control over the random parts of this identity. With this, my review of Corp Ego Fell Bullet Yi Sang comes to an end. The new identity has a high ceiling, but is gimmicky and has troubles with poise. It strongly reminds me of Shichun Ishmael, but Gubo Yi Sang has more damage, and at least slightly less cancerous conditionals. Do I recommend getting him though? Well, not really. While I do think the identity is strong in the right hands, it's still gimmicky by design, while also being tough to use well consistently due to the aforementioned skill order issues. It dominates the Refraction Railway though, so if you've set your sights on that mode specifically, consider this idea. It's really good there even if you don't fully optimize it. But for general use, I'd probably not slot him in without thinking. He could be good against certain trio fights or enemy groups, but he's not that good against bosses, and that's the type of encounter that's typically the most challenging. And yeah, that's about it. The video came a day late, as usual, because I got addicted to the horse girl game, much like many other people. They put crack in that game, I swear. I just want to keep playing and playing and playing, and just like that all my free time is wasted on horse girls. But yeah, if you disagree or have something to add, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to read all of them. If you enjoyed the video at any point, leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!